Today is August 16th, 2022. The Lawrence Board of Zoning Appeals is called to order at this time. I need a motion and a second for the approval of the minutes from May 17th, 2022.
I'll move.
Make a motion.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed, nay. Minutes stand as written. If you have not done so, please sign in the back of the room. And anyone wishing to speak tonight, please stand and raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Answer with I do. Thank you.
I do.
Do we have any special requests tonight, continuance, withdrawals, or waivers?
We have a special request for a waiver of the rules of the filing deadline. Petition 22 LSV 12-11705 Pendleton Pike. The filing deadline was July 13th. We received the packet on July 25th. The petitioner was able to get his notices out. He sent them on August 2nd. The deadline was August 6th. He'd like to request that you hear the petition this month instead of making him wait until September. If you guys want to hear it tonight, I'll need a motion and a second and then a vote to hear it.
May I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
Was the city prejudiced in getting their opinions out by this late filing?
No, it did not cause any problems with the staff report.
Okay.
Is there a motion?
Yeah, motion to hear the petition tonight.
Second. All those in favor of hearing the case tonight signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, nay.
Okay.
It has passed. We will now hear old business, 22 LSV 10, 7485 East 46th Street, a variance of development standards of the City of Indianapolis Consolidated Zoning Subdivision Ordinance 744-911-7. No advertising signs should be permitted which displays video or emitting graphics. And 744-911B2D, no sign shall be permitted which displays video or emitting graphics. Yes, sir.
Well, good evening. My name's Alan Townsend. I work at 111 Monument Circle, Suite 2700, Indianapolis, 46204. I represent Lamar Advertising. Lamar is one of the largest and most respected outdoor advertising companies in the country. In your handout at tab 1, I provided a little bit of background information on Lamar, particularly with regard to digital billboards. So this application before you tonight seeks conversion of an already existing off-premise outdoor advertising sign to a digital outdoor advertising sign. The sign is approximately 45 feet in height. It's 14 by 48 in size, with back-to-back faces, and contains a mix of commercial and non-commercial speech. It's located at 7485 East 46th Street, and it's oriented to Interstate 465. If you take a look at tab 2 in your binder, you'll actually kind of get an aerial view of where the outdoor advertising sign is already located. This area is kind of zoned a combination. It's D3, it's I2. It's surrounded by other commercial and industrial uses. It's also, as you can see, in a heavily wooded area. It's just south of 46th Street. It's in an area that's, if there is an area that's appropriate for digital signs, this is it. So the existing sign will remain in its current location, but will be updated to replace the existing faces with digital faces. There's a description of the conversion process in your booklet under tab 4. I didn't mean to neglect tab 3. It actually shows the existing outdoor advertising sign street view from both directions. Digital tab 4 is a description of the changeover process and how that would work. So the orientation, if the variance is approved, will not change. The sign will continue to be oriented toward I-465. The digital faces will hold messages in position for 8 seconds before transitioning to the next message. The digital faces will have light sensing technology, which will dim the faces in relation to the surrounding ambient light. They'll be equipped with cybersecurity protocols to prevent unauthorized messages, and they go full black in the event of a catastrophic failure. Lamar-related entity, TLC Properties, has a permanent easement across this parcel for signage, so there's no risk of an expiring lease. The sign will be able to remain in place, and giving you under tab 5 the permanent easement. The digital faces may also be utilized for community service messages upon a separate agreement with the City of Lawrence or community organizations. These digital faces will also be part of what you know as the Amber Alert program. It's a network utilized for messages regarding missing or abducted children to provide prompt information to members of the public. If you take a look at tabs 6, 7, and 8 of your binders, you can actually see how these outdoor advertising signs can be utilized so differently if we're permitted to really do an upgrade technological purposes. It can be special events, it can be digital tributes, or under tab 8, you have the messages for most wanted. It's really critical in those situations to get the message out and up early for the success rate to really have any chance to work. It can't work with our current technology. So you're all familiar with the standards. We have 5 prongs we have to prove. We believe we do. The first one is the one that probably gets talked about the most. The grant will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community. So we have an existing outdoor advertising sign that's being updated with digital faces, but this sign has been in place for many years, 38 as best I can estimate, without causing injury to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community. If you take a look under tab 9, it actually provided you with the original permit that was issued by the Indiana Department of Transportation back in '98. That's when the sign registration program really came into full force in Indiana, but that's where we learned that this sign was constructed in '84. So the only difference between what we have now and what we would have if the variance is granted is the manner in which the messages will be displayed. So rather than the sign like it is now with external illumination and lights shining on it, the digital faces are all internally illuminated. So you know the Indiana Department of Transportation specifically allows digital outdoor advertising signs in this location. What I've given you under tab 10 is I've put together kind of an excerpt from provisions from the Indiana Code and the Indiana Administrative Code concerning regulation of digital outdoor advertising signs on state and federally funded highways. So they are allowed as a matter of right, as long as you're in the correct location. They're just our rules we have to follow. What you'll see under tab 11 is the outdoor advertising permit that Lamar's already obtained to convert this existing structure to digital, should you be so inclined to grant the variance. I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about safety. Under tab 12, I've given you some excerpts from the Out of Home Association of America that has noted that the Federal Highway Administration conducted a comprehensive study regarding driver distraction and digital outdoor advertising signs. According to the OAAA, the study does not create a causal connection between digital outdoor advertising signs and an increase in driver distraction. You might say, okay, OAAA. That's what I said. So I went to try and actually find the study by the Federal Highway Administration referenced in this report. You'll find it under tab 13. It's all the way back to September of 2012. It's lengthy. I went through the whole darn thing. And I found what's important in the middle of page 55. This again is talking about driver distraction in the event of digitals, and it's under the heading called Summary. the last sentence in that second paragraph says, when billboards were present, the drivers in this study sometimes, but not such that the overall attention to the forward roadway decreased. We think that's important, especially considering the source. So you know, there are probably more than 10,000 digital outdoor advertising signs presently in the U.S. I can tell you, I know of at least 5 back-to-back digitals in Marion County. There are 2 on I-70, one eastbound, one westbound. Next time you're driving to the airport, you'll notice them. There are 2 on Fall Creek at the Indiana State Fairgrounds. You'll notice those the next time you go to the fair. There's 1 in Castleton. We count at least 41 in adjacent counties. This sign, when constructed, will conform to federal NDOT and industry standards with regard to construction and safety. It will be safe from both a strength perspective and able to withstand rated wind gusts. So let's talk about the use and value of the area adjacent to the property, whether it's affected in a substantially adverse manner. We believe it's not. Again, this existing outdoor advertising sign has been up for close to 4 decades. There's no evidence of it affecting neighboring properties in a substantially adverse manner. We actually believe you should think of this variance as an advancement in technology, because really at its heart, that's what it is. So rather than yesterday's technology, which I'll tell you involves stretching of a large piece of vinyl over a steel structure clamped in back with tarp straps. It requires workers to physically climb up the structure and affix it. Now, they are tied off with harnesses, but this is safer. No worker will ever have to climb on a frame to change the ads on the digital sign. It's done from a control room. The digital faces also will provide access to affordable advertising opportunities to local and national businesses. The need for the variance arises from some condition peculiar to the property. It does. Right now, the sign ordinance that you administer does not allow digital at this site without a variance. Lamar believes that digital signs should be evaluated on a case-by-case basis. They believe it's the right way to do it. This is a commercial industrial area. It's heavily wooded. It's next to a railroad corridor. This is the right location for technology like this. All the businesses around this area have been permitted to adapt to new technology. At its heart, that's what Lamar wants to do, and we believe it should be permitted to do so also. It's really counterintuitive to imagine a structure like this that has the ability to upgrade, use the latest technology, to not be permitted to do so when the technology is neither illegal nor immoral. So we'd like to upgrade it so we can compete with television media, social media, even newspapers that are using digital media. Further, the property where Lamar's outdoor advertising sign is currently located is as appropriate as the other locations in Marion County that allow for digital. If you take a look at tab 14, that's another example I wanted to provide you of all the other markets that allow for digital advertising where either Lamar or its competitors utilize digital inventory. As I wind up, I did want to talk about the other 2 factors, the strict application of the zoning ordinance providing a hardship. It's very similar to the last factor. So the question is it unfair to prohibit Lamar from upgrading its outdoor advertising sign to fit it with the latest technology, the best technology out there when it can be done safely? I think the answer is yes, that would be unfair. And even though this technology is relatively new, it's been tested. It works. It works in other locations in Indianapolis and even other communities in Indiana. Under tab 15, I've given you the municipalities in Indiana where Lamar currently maintains digital inventory. So lastly, the grant does not interfere substantially with the comprehensive plan. Well, we already have a sign. It's been in this location for many years. In practice, it's part of the area, it's part of the comprehensive plan. There's several other outdoor advertising signs in the area. So we believe that promoting local businesses and their services by utilizing digital ads is consistent with the comprehensive plan and really doesn't interfere with it in any manner. I have with me tonight my client, Jason Graham from Lamar. He's local. They have an office right here in Indianapolis. Jason oversees all of the signed inventory in the Indianapolis area. He's the person on the front line, if we're allowed to convert this to digital, that we'd want you to call to fix it. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions about the variance application, or if you have questions of Jason about digital technology or Lamar, please fire away.
Good evening. I have a couple of questions for you both. So the overall dimension of the sign, height, width, et cetera, that will all remain the same?
Correct.
Just purely converted to digital?
Correct. Yes.
Are there any considerations with the lumens or the brightness of the current exterior lights that point up toward the sign, and what that might look like with the digital conversion?
It's going to be less. So instead of the light reflecting off the face of the board with external lights, this will be, it's technically not even illuminated, but the diodes, the light comes out. So we actually have two photo cells. We have an initial and we also have a backup. And then in the case where either one of those were to fail, it would automatically go black. And it's also, we have 30 employees in our National Control Center in Louisiana that monitor this 24/7. So not only do we service it out of my office here, where we train and have our own technicians, they're not contracted out, they're in-house, they're on call. Just a little side note to that, but that's also to make sure that we're always producing the same light. So there's actually going to be less lumens. It's our foot candles is what we measure them, or nits, at 150 feet than you would if you had a traditional halide light.
Okay. And just one additional question, if I may. In the exhibit on pages 7, 8, and 9 are examples of sort of ideal messaging, PSA, public service, safety, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that makes sense. But I'm wondering what other types of advertising that we could expect. Is there a standard client list that you work with? I mean, what are some other everyday examples of advertisements of what those might be?
I mean, we have adhered to the OAAA, so we are conscious. The actual ad copies all get approved by me. So anything that's of controversial nature, insightful, or anything like that, it would have to pass by me, and I would take a look at it before we decide if anything goes up. So you're looking at a regular advertiser, local businesses, car dealerships, Carvana, anybody that wants to be able to change their message daily, people that want to day part their message, something different in the morning, different in the night. Restaurants, but I mean, Lamar's policy for what goes up as copy is handled by me here in Indianapolis.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
In the staff report, there are 7 commitments. Is Lamar willing to commit to those 7
Yes,
commitments? Okay,
I'm familiar with them, and there's not one of those on there that we're not willing to adhere to.
okay. One more question. In here, on tab number 4, I just want a clarification that the digital face will hold messages in position for 10 seconds before transitioning to the next message, but in the staff report it says 8.
That's an Allen mistake. I apologize for that.
That is an-
Tab 4, it should have said 8.
Okay. I just want a clarification, because that's all I want.
Good eye.
Sure it matches
Right.
commitments.
Go ahead.
I thought when we got the materials earlier that this is dependent upon the state approval,
Yes,
and so that's still pending, or
no,
you got it?
yeah, we were able to get the state addendum
It's in your
to allow
packet,
that,
JD.
which is one of the commitments in here.
It's actually under tab 11. That's actually the new permit.
Oh,
And that's specifically for this sign that we got for this meeting.
Okay,
So if you there's a lot of data on there, right?
yeah,
If you go down to kind of the lower quarter of the page, there's a line over toward the right-hand side that says changeable message sign, and it's checked yes. And then the permit's been approved down at the bottom by a NDOT employee, Neil Marcus. So they have this,
Oh, okay.
they're ready to go as far as NDOT is
all
concerned.
right, all right. And just the address, I know it's at the lower end of a very large parcel, as best I can tell. So, but if we approve a 46th Street address, is that, I don't know.
We don't approve addresses, JD. Those are assigned by Marion County.
Okay.
So we wouldn't have any way to change the address. It's all one parcel.
Yeah, I understand that, and I'm just trying to figure out whether if we, you probably know better than I. If we say yes to this, does that mean they can put it anywhere in that address?
It'll be specific to the plans that they provided for the petition.
Faith, did you have a question?
Thank you.
I have a few, yeah, thank you. Hi, yeah, so actually, I appreciated the pictures. We see like the Amber Alerts and you're talking about restaurants, but I just want to be clear, like, we're not talking about like we're not worried about what's on the content of the video, of the billboards. We're just here to talk about time, place, manner issues. And so I have one, because you'll have to forgive me, but when you were explaining the way that the light is projecting out, like, is that LED lights or is that light
It's
bulbs?
LED, they're little LED diodes.
Okay.
It's a difference between light, reflecting off the board versus being illuminated from the diodes.
So how many LED light bulb, or what do you call them, LED
Yes.
strips? Are they light
Diodes.
bulbs, or, I don't know the technicalities.
I actually don't know how many are in a 672 square foot sign. You can't see them individually. So when you drive by this board, it will not look any different than a high resolution printed copy that you would see anywhere else.
And what's the lifespan of one of those bulbs?
So at one of the bulbs,
Or, yeah,
So,
how often do they need to be replaced?
no, that's okay. So each one of them is a module. It's a little bit bigger than say this folder that I have in my hand. So all of our technicians are trained to replace those modules. So if one module goes out on a 1448, it's just going to look like a little black square. We would send somebody out there to replace that, pops it out, puts it back in. You wouldn't even notice if one little LED diode went out. So a module would have to go out, and you would, like I said, that would be a very small square on the board. But these, so if we're trying to make sure we understand what it looks like, it's a still image that, like you said, you would not notice that it changed until it does in an instant. So it's not like a reader board. Reader boards are going to be a lot lower resolution. That's where you can see those individual bulbs and you can see all of that. You wouldn't be able to see that on this.
Okay, so for each one, and I appreciate the word module, I think that's what I was trying to figure out what to even call them. So you said like they're like maybe this big. Like, what's the lifespan of one of those?
So the board's warranted and guaranteed for 10 years, but we have modules that go out depending on weather, things like that. So, I mean, it could be a couple years. People like to throw things at them sometimes, so it's like, as far, but the board itself is warranted for 10 years, and that's when we replace them.
Okay.
So
And how many of these are like on a billboard?
there's gonna be several hundred.
Because what I'm trying to figure out is how much waste is going to be generated by this.
Well, there's gonna be a lot less waste. I mean, we do recycle our vinyls, but we are not gonna be going up there producing materials, taking it down. We do recycle it, but that won't happen ever again. So, in the actual ability to put up those messages, so if a client wanted to change their copy relative to day parting, or if they wanted to, okay, it's a Valentine's Day sale coming up, they want to put up that copy, change it, take it down, they would have to be buying materials, which is not even cost prohibitive for any local advertiser, to be honest with you. We would have to keep buying those materials. We would have to keep driving out there. We would have to burn fuel. We would have to do that every single time a copy had to change. Now it's just going to be in one email. And you're looking at about, it's about 20,000 kilowatts, which is It costs it's 10,000 kilowatts for your average home. So,
Okay. Well, and you started, I think you actually started to go even a little bit further. So like, do you have like a measure of like the carbon footprint difference? Because you're saying you have technicians driving out. And like what's the net? Is there a
my
difference?
average repair is one a year. So once to each sign per year. So during the 10 years. So if I put up a sign at this location on average, I'll only have to visit that sign for repair once a year.
Comparatively, Jason, I think what she's curious about is how often would you be sending somebody out there to do something on the sign otherwise?
I mean, between maintenance and light bulbs, installing the actual vinyl, I mean, I'd have to guess at least 12. I mean, that's if we change copy, we sell in 4-week cycles. If we were changing copy, even 6 times, and then 6 other times we had to go out there for some other maintenance of the board. So you're looking at 1 versus 12 visits to the site.
Okay. And I'm looking at also like volume of waste. So we talk about like the vinyls coming down, and the modules going up and coming down. So would you say the volume of waste from the vinyls is more or less than the volume of waste from these modules?
It's a really good question. If I was to give you a fair answer.
That's actually really what I want to know. Is I want to know, what kind of environmental impact are we going to have by changing to digital? Do you know like energy consumption? If
Yeah,
it,
I just gave that to you. So that was
Yeah.
20,000 kilowatts on average per year, which your average home is 10,000. So,
is it solar power or is it going to be,
no, they're not solar power.
do you have that technology?
We do. It has not been able to be used in India.
Not
So in the states where we can, we do use that.
So we don't actually have really like the math for volume of waste, because I've
If you
heard
want it in a carbon,
I've heard anecdotal things going both ways, right? So I'm genuinely curious. I don't know the answer. Is it going to generate more waste having the vinyl billboards, or is it going to generate more waste having these modules that you have to keep coming down? Which I would believe those are not recyclable.
but when you say keep coming down, like I said, we only visit a board once a year. So that would be a module replacement.
Yeah.
So one module out of hundreds this size may be replaced in a year. Like I said, the lifespan of the board is 10 years. When we take those down, those materials are recycled as well.
The modules are recyclable.
Yes. Everything on there that can be recycled is, little that is
Okay. But the vinyl is also recyclable, though.
not. Yes.
Okay.
I mean, you have to factor into some things about whether, what kind of face is currently on the billboard, damages, replacing, panels that we may lose in a windstorm. That's not going to happen again. We don't ever have to worry about that. Damage to vinyls, things like that from wind. These boards aren't damaged by the winds.
Okay. So in theory, the life of a module is 10 years.
Yes.
And what's the life of the vinyl?
We only warranty
4
it
weeks.
for 12 months.
So generally, do you have a vinyl up for 12 months, or you said
Yes.
4-week contracts, or?
You could do it for 12 if you didn't want to change your copy at all. And that vinyl would last 12.
Probably be happy if advertisers left their vinyl up for a year.
Yes, and especially if they bought it for a year-long contract, that would be nice. And we have to use different weight materials of vinyl. I know you're interested in that, so I'm just sharing that.
Yeah, I appreciate
If somebody was buying it for 4 weeks, we would use a lightweight vinyl that's probably only good for 90 days. Instead of using a heavier weight vinyl, which would be more wasteful, but that heavier weight vinyl would last a year, so.
Yeah, it'd be really curious. I'm really curious to know. You didn't have to give any of that info to the state, did you, by any chance? On the way, no. I'm just the only annoying one that's curious about this.
I can find out for you.
I would actually love to know. Because like I said, I've heard anecdotal evidence going both ways, and I actually don't know, and I'm really curious.
Does the board have any other questions? Faith, are you,
I don't have, yeah, I mean, they don't have the answer. So,
And just on the one last, I guess my question would be, what's the way you want me to qualify that or quantify that waste? What's measurement are you looking for that I could maybe provide?
but I'm looking at,
How do you might want to measure the waste?
right. So I'm looking at, I mean, in my mind, I'm imagining how is our community going to be positively or negatively impacted from like a pollution standpoint, right? So we've talked about light pollution. Not really excited about the light pollution, but we have lights on the highway. I mean, it's not, I don't know that that's necessarily impacting me. But when it comes to, you know, we're pulling down billboards, vinyls, and we're recycling them, and those are probably more local guys who don't need to fly in from Louisiana or whatever. Then we have these modules, maybe it's 10 years, maybe it's 1 year, they have to fly in.
Nobody flies in. All
I
that
thought you
what I
said they were
meant
on-
is they were trained. No, what's in Louisiana is just a control room where somebody monitors all the 4,000 boards across the country. So there's eyeballs watching a board at all times. My technicians are on West Minnesota Street here in Indianapolis. So they're the same technicians who
Okay.
put up the board. Nobody's flying in to fix this.
Okay, yeah, see, because that's, again, that's going to like my mental calculation of like energy consumption.
Sure.
And how much are we wasting? And because if there's a net positive in putting up the billboard, I think that that's really critical information. But if there's a negative, I also think that that's important
Well,
to know.
I can tell you I did a light study on my most recent digital billboard conversion in Bloomington. And at 150 foot at the property line, I had to meet or be less than the current light that was coming from the halide lights, the property line, in order to stay in compliance with my variance, and we were less. So when we did that study, the light study, at 150 feet, it was less light pollution than it was from the traditional lights. So from that standpoint, it's less.
Less than vinyl.
What's that?
It's not less than vinyl.
No, that's what I'm telling you. Less light pollution than when you take a halide light that's on an arm, gets that light and reflects out, which is currently there. I converted a board, and when we did that conversion, there was less light pollution coming from the digital than there was from the old board at 150 feet.
Okay, I'll have to believe you. I think is like, yeah, like as a human being driving at night, like.
I had to do it in order to stay in compliance with the variance.
I believe you. I believe you. I'm just saying, like, as a human being who drives on the highway at night, like, there's a difference to me at least.
Your question's a good one. You're asking 30,000 feet view. How much energy does a vinyl sign consume compared to a digital? When you factor in people who may have to go out and touch it, the power it takes to illuminate it, add it all together,
Right, 'cause
figure it out.
Light bulbs. I mean,
Yeah.
that's really the information that I'd love to know.
Yeah.
I don't think we have the answer tonight, but
We do not. That's a good question.
I think, as far as me, I've got little kids and like, the world is kind of spiraling out of control. And so like, I'm worried, what's this impact going to be on my kids, right? So like, are we going to be saving energy consumption with this? Because if so, I think that's fantastic. Or are we going to be wasting more, in which case I would think that this is probably not something that we need. And so that's really the information that I really would like to know.
You want to weigh that with electrical use, but also with the carbon footprint that we would establish.
Yeah, I think there's a lot involved in that. And I don't have all the answers, of course, but as far as sitting on the board and weighing my decision, that's really the information I'd love to know.
What is the electrical consumption for a just vinyl board with lights comparatively? Do you know that?
And in kilowatts, I don't, but I do know that we run off the same amp service, so it's not even, so we usually have a 200 amp service on a billboard, and we're not, if I have a 200 amp service on a static, I wouldn't have to upgrade that to convert even both sides to digital. So I don't know it in kilowatts, but I do know that we can run with the same meter and the same amp service. It's gone down tremendously low. There was a point over 5 years ago when these boards were not as efficient, and I can tell you that with a straight face, for that. We could not put 2 boards on a 200 amp service because we were using too much power. In the last 5 years, so any of my boards that are over 5 years old, which is the majority of them, are going to use less consumption and be about half the weight, about half the consumption of energy. We've made those progresses, and we continue to do that because it's not only beneficial for the community, but for us as well. I mean, every time a new product comes out, we
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll hear from the remonstrators for or against the petition. Seeing that there's none, we'll hear from the city of Lawrence.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, Maria.
I apologize that I have to be on Zoom, but we're having a bit of a COVID issue in my household this week. So if I may act as remonstrance to some constituents that contacted me regarding this petition.
Okay.
Maria Rosamarov, 11754 Sinclair Drive, Lawrence, 46235. I was contacted by, I'll back up. I am the Common Counselor for District 4, and I was contacted by constituent indicating their opposition to this request and wondering why we need additional signage and increasing the intensity of signage that exists. I also personally, although I can appreciate many of the comments made by the petitioner, and in fact, I myself have brought up some of those exact comments in various forums regarding the safety of changing signage, some of the energy consumption and so forth. However, I still believe that I am confused as to the necessity of increasing an already variance approved signage, that you would be additionally asking for another variance atop that which exists to increase the intensity of what exists. If you are asking for, if there is no distraction, then what is the point of increasing the intensity? That attraction, that visual distraction must be the point. Otherwise, the existing advertising sign should suffice. So I don't understand why we should increase light pollution and why we should increase intensity and further attraction and distraction when we already have a lot of distractions for our traffic. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. Anybody else for or against the petition? We will hear from the city of Lawrence. Renee will.
I think Dan's going to talk instead of me today. Dan, are you going to? Sri?
I can. Sri's on as well. So the city's position is that by all evidence that we can account for, and most of what you've heard tonight, there is less light pollution because the reflective light doesn't exist. There's actually less wattage used to power the light. Those are really somewhat irrelevant to the fact that NDOT's already permitted this sign. Even though it's sitting within the city of Lawrence, it's not visible to anybody in the city of Lawrence unless you're on 465 and happen to be traveling. It's actually, a post actually sits in a swamp. We also believe that there's precedence for this sign that the city could be opened up to litigation if we don't approve it, based upon the recent court case the city settled with another digital sign. So the city's position is, the staff's position is that we need to approve this variance request. Sri, if you'd like to weigh in on that, you're welcome to.
Dan, hi, this is Sri, city engineer. I think Dan, you kind of covered it. When I reviewed this, my first question was about INDOT reviewing the petition because INDOT does a much more thorough review of any signs like this, especially if they are facing the freeway. So INDOT's review is much more detailed and much more in depth. So once INDOT reviewed it and approved it, it means that they did not find any issues with this, visibility, traffic distraction, because those are all the stuff INDOT very much in detail review it. And it doesn't, the only reason we are here for a variance is the property is in Lawrence. This sign is no way facing any of the traffic traffic on Lawrence or to any of the residents in Lawrence, and I completely support this variance just because it has no effect to the local people in Lawrence, nor any traffic issues. Thank you.
Thank you. We now will hear from the petition again.
For the chance to speak again. I just wanted to clarify the remonstrators' concerns. It sounds like there may have been a little bit of confusion. We're not looking to seek a second variance for a sign that already has a variance, and we're not looking to increase the intensity of an existing board. And I think it was proposed what the need was. And, the need is that we would be able to change the message. So I think, just to make sure that we understand that I wasn't trying to just make a board brighter and more distracting. I'm trying to make it so that we can use technology to change the creative. We would often, it allows people to advertise their local businesses. So there wasn't anything that I want to do that's going to be more distracting. And then I think everything else we've talked about, unless you guys have any other questions.
This is Dan again. I want to be sure that I'm clear in this. When we had the staff review in our offices with you all, I believe you volunteered that if the necessity came up for city for an Amber Alert or some other crisis public message, that Lamar would agree to air that for us on that sign. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. And that's actually something that those partners, the Marshal Service, the FBI, and the Amber Alert, we already have agreements with them nationally. So we are pre-approved with them. If something was to happen with an Amber Alert, they don't even have to contact us. It's up within 12 minutes. So the fast reaction, so that is automatically offered. And we also discussed, opportunities for Lawrence to partner with us. It's not in the commitments, but that's something that I did offer, even if it was something not on that large national scale, but something that we needed to partner with for the city of Lawrence. We're happy to do so.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Does the board have any questions?
Yes, I hate to beat this poor horse to death, but it sounds like this subject matter of light energy and consumption seems to resonate with some of us. So within your industry, is there any sort of, I don't know if it would be a LEED certification or green or sustainability certification that you could offer to maybe quell some of our concerns about the impact environmentally?
To get our board certified.
Yeah, I don't know. Again, I don't know if there's anything in your industry that you could then take to the market and tout, I would imagine, because this is going to come up in other municipalities. I would
It's interesting it hasn't, and I really apologize that I wasn't prepared for that question because I've been beat up in many neighborhood association groups in many other places. I've been with Lamar for 21 years in 8 different markets, and the actual amount of, like we were talking about the carbon footprint hasn't been brought up. As a sustainable product for us, the fact that it lasts 10 years with no no actual labor, the safety, the ability, it really comes down to the ability for the customers to utilize changing, the safety for our employees, those kinds of things have been really at our forefront, but, that is something, I'm not aware that we've gotten certification. Like I said, I do know that when we started deploying digital billboards 20 years ago, I worked for the company when the first one went up. We've done 4,000 since. And every single time the industry or some product has got better, we've adapted that technology. That's why they're half the weight and half the energy consumption that they were 10 years ago. So I know I can promise you that we'll continue to do that. It's obviously to our benefit as well. I don't want to pay any higher electric bills than I have to. So.
Thank you.
Yeah, would you be able to lobby the legislature to get solar panel
I know, I think that's
tax
wild.
credits?
Oh, I have no problem trying it. I've been in this market for almost 4 years now. I was actually we've done it in a lot of different capacities. The only digital billboard in Times Square operating completely on solar is from Lamar. We built it into the vinyl, and it's the only self-sustaining billboard in Times Square. So I know that's just a little tidbit, but that's our company, and that's what we try to do.
But that is important information. And I will say, gosh, I'm sitting up here and I'm listening to all this, and I find it very interesting. And I mean, the reality is, I'm weighing out these factors, and I'm really stuck on, the number one. I think some of the some of the stuff is it could go either way for me, right? But the grant will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community. And that's where I really want that data. I like the idea that you guys have the only sustainable billboard in Times Square, but I wonder if we can table this until we can get that information, because I think that's really gonna affect my decision.
Faith, you can
What would you consider wasteful that's injurious to the community? Am I allowed just to?
So that's, again, we're talking about volume of waste, right? Like how many modules that have to get replaced and the ability to recycle those, how many trips out to the property, the volume of the vinyl, the recyclability of that. I mean, it's this type of consumption and electrical consumption, the difference in that, and different repairs to the billboard, and that's what I want to know, and that's going to be the deciding factor for me on the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of my community.
Faith, if you would want to continue it to the next meeting, we can do that. The board can. So that would be up to a motion and a second and then a vote.
Because, I mean, a digital billboard, assuming that we approve it, that's going to be there for 10 years minimum, and then it's going to continue to be replaced. And I think that having the data before making this important decision would be beneficial to the board.
And it'll be on all the time. It'll be on.
And it'll be, right. I mean, I think this is a big decision, and I think we need to be fully informed with as much information as we can. So I don't know how long it would take you to gather that information, but, if this is a good decision for our community, we want to make it. But if this is going to be a wash, if this is going to be negative, I mean, we want to know that too. So I don't have conclusion going either way. To the extent the city is nervous about a lawsuit, well, we're not talking about content of the message that's on the billboard, right? This is not any type of a First Amendment case. We're literally talking about just the general welfare of the community, and that would be in waste and consumption of energy and recycling.
So how do you want me to substantiate that to bring the information back? Like what?
I would love to see.
Hold on a second. We need a motion
Okay.
to continue it with or without notice and a second, and then we can.
So I moved to continue this petition until the next meeting of the board to gather the information demonstrating the difference between the current billboard and the proposed billboard in terms of volume of waste and energy consumption and maintenance consumption. Essentially the carbon footprint, right? We talked about that, but.
There's a motion and I need a second. Oh, is this motion with or without notice? Public notice.
With public notice, that'd be great.
Okay. There's a motion on the floor to continue this with notice to the next meeting. Is there a second?
Yeah, I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor in continuing this case till the next month signify by saying aye.
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 Any nays? Then the case has been continued to next month. And
We'll get all the information to me, and I'll disseminate it to the board.
you can get with Faith to get more of a detail of what. So we'll get, thank you.
Absolutely.
The next case is 22 LSV-11, 9702 Millenton Pike, variance of development standards of the City of Indianapolis Consolidated Zoning Subdivision Ordinance 744-11, A9, to allow an advertising sign closer than 1,000 feet from another advertising sign.
Hello, my name is Richard Sprague. My office is at 430 2nd Street, Columbus, Indiana, 47201. I'm here representing JR Promotions. I am one of the owners. My wife and I are. And we're asking for a variance for spacing variance, and I guess both of them are spacing variances for the billboard to go back up at 9702 Pendleton Pike address. I actually, a little history. In 2012, I purchased a billboard that was located on the property that was built in about sometime between 2004 and 2006, it was put up there. I believe it was permitted from the City of Indianapolis at that time. When I purchased the sign, I was a little concerned about the revenue and the location, and Florence has changed a lot since then. It has grown, the commercial area in that has become much more attractive. We went and we came to the City of Lawrence and asked about putting up the sign back up, and I think everything appeared okay. We took the 300-foot spacing from the property line of the property located to the southeast of the site, and we were about 305 feet from the residential property line. And then we were a little over 1,000 feet from the other sign pole to the west, which was at 9535 Pendleton Pike. We sent it to the City of Indianapolis for approval. They came back and said that our zoning now goes to the center of the road instead of to the property line. That we didn't qualify because of that, and we needed to come back and talk to you about changing that and if we could put it back up with a variance. That's kind of what I'm here about. So, and I do believe I've tried to answer the 5 questions. I think I've answered those pretty well, and I'm willing to answer any questions and keep it simple.
Anybody this time have any questions? You said you had a sign there,
Yes.
and then you took it down in 2014?
Yes. It's the same owner, it was Matt Bennett's Fun Time Campers, and we just felt like at the time that it just wasn't generating enough revenue to sustain keeping the board there, so we decided to take it down. I agreed with him, and we did that. And since the area's changed some, we got back together, and he asked if I was interested in putting it back up, and I said, yes, I would very much like to do that. And we feel like it'd be a benefit to some of the advertisers in the area that have asked to be on the sign, and hopefully that's okay. It's a standard 14 by 48 billboard, same thing that was there before.
So is this going to be for your company?
We will be the owner of it, yes, we will.
Will it be advertisements for
We'll
your
be
company?
advertising people in the community, no.
So it's like it's a true billboard, it's not like an advertisement?
It's not an on-premise sign, no, it's a true billboard.
Okay, because was that what you had in 2014, was the sign for your own company?
No, it was the same, it was just an actual billboard. I purchased it, it was built in 2004, sometime between 4 and 6, we don't know the exact date.
Oh, I see.
It was built there, and then I purchased it in a group of billboards when I bought out another company.
Because this is at the Fun Time Campers,
Yes, it is.
so but it's off the premises.
It'll be an off-premise sign, it'll be an actual billboard for people to advertise
Okay.
businesses.
What's the business across the street, across Pendleton Pike? No? Just drove through there. I'm trying to figure out where this is.
Is it Coron, I believe Coron's had
Yeah.
Some kind of road here across the street there, don't they?
Anybody know? I don't. Okay.
Mobile home park
Or on property.
is across the street. Because it's 265 feet away from the protected district, which is the mobile home park.
It's 265 feet from the center of the road.
Right, from the center of the road.
It's a little over 300 feet from the protected district.
Yeah.
In the way I look at it, I know the city of Indianapolis doesn't, so.
So the C7 in the aerial
This is Mithoff.
zoning base map
Yeah.
is Coron's sales lot.
Yeah.
And then you've got the mobile home park right next to it, which I think is Briar Creek.
It's by the big palm tree, yeah?
Pardon?
By the big palm tree?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, that's the one. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
The big metal palm tree.
We talked to Mr. Coron about this, and he's fine with it, so.
Why do you want one so close to another advertising sign?
We're a different company. We're not this, we're JR Promotions. We're privately owned, just my wife and I. We're not a large company. That sign that's 1,000 foot away belongs to another company.
Okay.
Right now, I think most of the billboards down through there are full. There's people that like to advertise on them. We already have people interested in this one, advertising on it, so.
And there will be no digital or anything?
No.
Not yet.
We will,
That's a joke, that's a joke.
I don't feel like this would be a digital location. This is not suitable for that.
Is there a commitment to that point on the table? Okay.
Well, it's our staff recommendation that that be.
Part of, yeah, that we would not do that.
The billboard is to remain static unless otherwise approved by the Lawrence Board of Zoning Appeals, so, yes. Without us approving it, they can't.
It's kind of interesting here in Lawrence because, I mean, there's been a lot of discussion about Pendleton Pike and the various businesses along Pendleton Pike, and Funtime Campers is not one of those. But we've kind of, as a policy, kind of looked at, well, if one of those leaves, we don't really want to have another one come in. And I kind of look at I was driving up Pendleton Pike, and Pendleton Pike is, it's got a cluttered skyline or whatever you want to call it. And I just, I guess I'm kind of the view that here we don't have another bit of clutter in our skyline. And I'm just really reluctant because it does run afoul of two different restrictions. I'm really reluctant to grant a variance that is a two-striker because I just, it just seems, why would we want to do that, I guess?
Well, I understand where you're coming from, but I don't really feel like we're a two-striker, because if you look at we're over 1,000 feet. Poles, between the billboard poles, we're over 1,000 feet. It's the light fixtures. You're saying, oh, because you got lights on it, the lights will be closer than the 1,000 feet, the
Okay.
light fixtures.
Okay,
We're over 300 feet from the property line of Mr. Coron's mobile home park. So, when they changed the laws at some point, they said, oh, we're going to run these zoning laws, we're going to run the zoning to the center of the street. How many people are going to build a home in the center of the street?
yeah.
So I guess if you look at the property lines, we wouldn't even be looking for a variance. That's,
Yeah, okay, I understand where you're
the
coming
state
from.
of Indiana looks at it and says, oh, your poles are over 1,000 feet apart, so you meet all the, it's 500 feet with the state of Indiana. So if we're 1,000 feet, we meet that. It's just the way the city of Indianapolis is looking at it at this point.
But the one that you had to take down, you had that one without a variance too, and that's why you had to take it
I
down.
didn't need a
right?
variance at all. Just put up without a variance.
It's just one.
It was probably, yeah. And that's why I had to come down.
And then
I
since
mean, it didn't
then-
have to, I just took it down because.
Oh,
I thought it
he
was-
wouldn't make any money,
Look at my- I was losing money.
And the new billboard.
which I understand that. Don't-
35 went up after he took his down. That's where the 1,000,
So the variance has changed in the meantime?
right.
Okay. Because that's a difference, right? If it was up without permission, that's why I had to come down versus,
No.
we've had that one. We've had that issue come
Yes,
up.
we have.
So JD, is one of your questions about the,
I think that goes to your favor, by the way. that it-
the volume, the number of billboards along Pendleton Pike in that area?
Yeah, right now, you know, you drive up Pendleton
of all
Pike and
those-
there's little business signs. There's not
Right, sure.
so many billboards.
Yeah.
That's
Do we have any idea,
what I
Renee?
see when I drive up
So-
Pendleton
And
Pike.
so that's why it would be a difference between if it was a sign for a business, like the Fun Time Camper sign versus a big billboard for general advertisement.
Do we have any idea, Renee, what that looks like today? The number of
Differently, right?
signs along that stretch? Do we have any idea what that looks
On
like?
billboards?
Yeah, yeah.
There's the one at Midhofer and Pendleton Pike that he references. And then there would be this one, and then the next one is going to be on the other side of Midhofer. And it's not actually a billboard, it's more of a ground sign that co-runs
Yes.
as their
Okay.
55 plus.
Is that what the 1,000, is that
Yeah.
what they're,
Well, no, they're going 1,000 feet to this sign that's up by Midhofer. It's 965 feet, I think, if my math,
Okay.
983 feet. And it's supposed to be 1,000, but they're measuring
I understand, yeah.
the corner of the billboard to the corner of the billboard, not the pole to the pole, is how Indy's measuring it. If you measure pole to pole, we meet the 1,000. But that's not how the zoning code reads to measure. And then for the 300 to a protected district, which is any residential district, Marion County is measuring to the middle of Pendleton Pike and not to the curb of the residential neighborhood.
Which is across Pendleton Pike.
Yes, sir. And that measurement is 265 feet, but if you measure to the actual curb of the subdivision, it's like 302. So if you follow Marion County's measuring guideline, then he needs a variance.
I understand.
So that's.
Thank you.
Yes,
Really appreciate the explanation.
sorry.
any other questions for the petitioner?
Do we have, because we talked about the neighbors briefly, I mean, Maria, is this your district, or do you have any information from the neighbors?
Well, I'm getting ready to ask,
We'll ask.
I'm just asking if the board has any questions.
Oh, yeah.
But have you met with the neighbors or talked to them at all?
No, I've talked with Mr. Coron across the street, and we've notified all the neighbors around within,
You have, so there's like the protected neighborhood, right? So have you met with any of them?
I've not met with any of them, but we did notify the ones that own the area.
Okay.
I think they've all been, we sent out a lot of certified letters. No one's here to,
And no one responded?
is anyone here or not?
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Okay.
We'll hear from any remonstrators for or against the petition.
Yes, I'm here again. Maria Rasmaroff, 11754 Sinclair Drive, Lawrence 46235, Common Counselor for Lawrence District 4, and I was contacted by a constituent representing their opposition to this request. I also believe that this will add to sign clutter and is not necessary. And I was wondering if the petitioner indicated that the area, that the sign was taken down in 2014, and the area has increased in its commercial successfulness without the billboard, why is more signage for a billboard to increase the commercial successfulness required in 2022? It seems to me that there's enough distractions along Pendleton Pike and enough sign clutter, and it takes away from the beauty of our natural environment. Thank you.
Thank you, Marie. Anybody else for or against the petition? We'll hear from the city of Lawrence.
Dan, do you want to take this, or did you want me?
So a rather unorthodox response probably, but the staff reviewed this, and from a legal perspective and from a logical perspective of just meeting the ordinances and the codes, we don't see an issue with it, and that's what the staff report reflects. I will ask the BZA to consider that the city of Lawrence is really starting to focus upon enhancing and improving the look of Pendleton Pike from 465 all the way to Sunnyside, starting with NDOT's total renovation of the median system and the addition of landscape medians, et cetera, beginning in 2023. When that's taken into consideration and how we're really trying to place a focus on beautifying the city, this is somewhat in my mind not related at all to what I mentioned earlier, is does it qualify or not, but just from an aesthetic standpoint, at some point we're going to have to start really looking at this, whether this is the point or not, and I'll leave that up to the BZA to decide. So I know that's kind of a conflicting viewpoint, but I could be motivated either way. But I'm starting to really focus on behalf of the city and my role of what we have to do to improve the appearance of Lawrence to those that are passing through Lawrence. And I'm not certain that the addition of another billboard really serves that purpose.
Thank you, Dan. Any questions for Dan?
No.
Okay. Anybody else? Petitioner, you want to come up and for a rebuttal?
Well, I feel like I've been in the billboard business for over 40 years. I try to be a good community supporter and try to do the right thing. I have looked at Lawrence up and down Pendleton Pike and other areas, and I only know of one other spot in the whole on Pendleton Pike where a billboard could actually be built without coming in here for a large variance. And I think sometimes we miss the boat by, we allow all these fast food restaurants to pop up that just go one right after another and look very different too. And when you look at what a billboard can do maybe to attract some better businesses, we could advertise for different things. I do not see how the billboard can hurt in any way. And I really feel, I hope you recognize that and approve this variance so we can go forward.
Any other questions for the petitioner? Thank you. Board ready to vote?
Yes.
The board will be voting on 22 LSV-11-9702 Pendleton Pike, a variance of development standard of the City of Indianapolis Consolidated Zoning Subdivision Ordinance 744-911A9 to allow an advertising sign closer than 1,000 feet from another advertising sign. The vote is 3 to deny and 1 to approve. So your petition has been denied. The board will listen to 22 LSV 12-11705 Pendleton Pike, a variance of development standard of the City of Indianapolis Consolidated Zoning Subdivision Ordinance, Table 743-1, to allow an outdoor seating.
Good afternoon or good evening, everyone. My name is Graham Levy. I'm the owner of the Blue Lagoon Jamaican Kitchen located at 11705 Pendleton Pike. We've been in that location for about 5 years. Prior to that, we were in Broad Ripple for 6 years. Business have grown over that time frame to the point where we now have In addition to the brick and mortar, 2 food trucks. We're looking to expand, and this petition is basically to request a variance of developmental standards to construct an outside seating area, capacity approximately 22, to help foster that growth and development in the business. The packages that were submitted, as mentioned by Renee earlier, were submitted a little late, but we were able to get the notices sent out in time. I believe it was August the 2nd, and the notices posted in the window of the restaurant on August the 4th allow us to be eligible for this hearing if you so allow it, and here I am presenting, so I appreciate that. In the packages, we pretty much addressed the questions for the variance. I think it's pretty clear the benefits that the Blue Lagoon outside seating would add to the overall Oak Landon Plaza and other businesses within it. If there are any questions about those answers, I would be more than happy to address them at this time.
I have a question. Good evening, Mr. Levy. Congratulations on the success of Blue Lagoon. I know that's a hard business, so kudos to you.
Thank you.
So I know in the packet we have sort of a schematic or a layout of what the physical space would look like, but are there any renderings? Maybe they're in here, I just don't see them, of I think there was some discussion of building a structure.
There's a sketch.
It's in the staff report, second to last page.
Second to last page.
So your last page, because it's back to back. And then there's one in the petition.
That's a layout of what the space is going to look like, but I think there was some discussion of a structure being built.
No, it's a covered porch.
It's already covered.
It's
Oh, the
already
porch
covered.
exists.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize that. Okay, forgive me. Okay, so the roof structure is already in place.
Yes, it's already in place. Essentially, all we're doing is adding 4 wooden planters
I
that will
see.
enclose the outside seating area,
I see.
approximately 6 feet by half a foot wide and about 3 feet
Okay.
high.
Okay.
Keep that wayward 2-year-old from running into the parking lot.
Yeah, that's a good thing, right? Yeah, it's a good safety feature to have, yes. Any estimation of the potential impact to your business on this? I mean, obviously, we're heading into, sadly, it'll be fall and winter before long.
Right, so that's one of the reasons why I was trying to do everything in my power to get into this hearing, capitalize on the good weather as opposed to the September 20th hearing. The inside seating capacity is 65, and as mentioned, this will add about 22 seats, so would pretty much kind of increase our capacity, 25%.
Okay.
So.
And Lord Ashley's has outdoor seating too, don't they?
I believe so.
Yeah, it's kind of
To the side.
Side.
Yeah. And I guess, kind of piggybacking off of Trey's question, so what will this look like in the winter?
So it's basically going to be, as mentioned before, 4 wooden planters. It's going to be painted, darker color, dark brown, and then it will have planter box inserts for the landscaper to put pretty much whatever type of flowers that we want. So in the winter, we can always have maybe some kind of perennial or evergreen plant that basically still beautifies the area in the winter season.
You're not still gonna have seats outside, right?
No, not in the winter.
Unless you have ice cream, or no, ice sculpting. Maybe.
That's a
Jamaican ice
possibility.
sculpting.
Right?
You know, the cool runnings, right, with the bobsled and everything.
Oh, wow, that's a good idea.
Okay. I love that movie. Okay, so Yeah, I don't really have any other questions.
So the ends, will those be enclosed or not?
No, the ends won't be enclosed. Essentially, all the way to the curb is where we'll have the planters, and we will have 4 top tables pretty much up against the wall of the restaurant, and then 2 top tables against the actual planters, leaving in the middle a 3 feet walk area.
Which is what's required by code.
I guess I'm just, okay. The planters go all the way down?
So the area in general is about 35 feet long. And the depth from the restaurant exterior wall to the curb, at about 10 feet, but will basically, because the width of the planters is about half a foot, the complete depth of the seating area is going to be about 9.
I guess the ones we've approved before have always had some type of fencing, haven't they?
We did put fencing around Whiskey Business and the Fort Bend Pub.
Right?
I think,
AJ's?
yep, AJ's, and then,
Those driven
also
by
Lord
excise or
Ashley's.
any alcohol restrictions? Are those driven by an excise circumstance?
No, it was more of a safety concern for families that were dining outdoors. To have that wayward 2-year-old get up from the table and take off. There was some kind of barrier
I see.
to keep them contained and corralled. So they weren't running into a parking lot.
Well, then maybe let's make sure we're reading the map right. So I read the map and I see like these 1, 2, 3, 4, and it says they're 4 by 6. So, and 3 feet high, well, half foot wide. And then there's MR1, MR2, MR3, and those are 3
Metal rail.
and 2/3 foot length metal spindles. So are those, and I see the lines, so I was kind of assuming that those are connected. Are they going to be connected?
Yes. So if this is a planter and this is an adjoining planter, there will be metal rails
There will.
connecting.
Okay.
So they're just not going to be on the ends.
It's like-
Because we've got to keep the sidewalk open from, say, somebody's at the
Correct.
Dollar General.
Right.
And wants to go to the Jamaican restaurant or Lord Ashley's, they still have to be able to travel that sidewalk. So unlike Lord Ashley's, which is on an end cap, they have an extra patio space that's kind of off to the north of the Lord Ashley's where they sit their outside. That is not fenced in, where Lord Ashley's sits their outside.
Right.
So, but the other ones, like the Fort Bend Pub, which is right here on Otis Avenue, we had that one fenced in because there weren't going to be kids in there because it's a pub, but you're going to have drunk people. So we figured that's as bad as having kids, right? They might fall into the road.
Corral the drunk people.
Yes.
Oh my God.
And same thing with Whiskey Business was to,
Yeah.
that's fenced in, again, to keep people from walking into the parking lot.
Now, the planters, do they go all the way down to the sidewalk? Or are they going to be just,
Are you envisioning hanging planters?
no, no.
These are planter boxes.
On a box.
That they sit on the ground?
I'm
will sit on the
imagining this
ground.
looking kind of modern, right? Like the thin, like they're trellis boxes that are just.
Yeah.
Right, but what are they going to be on? I mean, is that all going to be solid?
I think it's a solid wood all the way.
Yeah, solid wood.
Okay, that's what I'm trying to get at. Okay.
So like I'm imagining that maybe I've been on Pinterest too much lately, but like I'm imagining, right, like these podiums, right? It's top to bottom wood.
Okay.
And then there's like,
6 inches of,
so this is my imagination, right? And so then there's like this gap between the boxes, and then there's like a pole with like fence between it.
Okay, that's, yeah. I want to make sure I'm envisioning this.
So it does provide a barrier.
yes.
Yes,
Between the
yes.
combination of those structures, it provides a barrier.
Yeah, the whole frontage is enclosed.
Okay.
So, yes.
Okay.
You just
Combination
needed
of planters and the spindles.
needed your Pinterest board for this,
Your vision board.
your vision board.
All right.
But we can imagine it. We're creative people here.
So any other questions?
Now, is
Sorry,
that
my
gonna
mic's
be-
broke.
Now, is that going to be okay though? Because, so the door is 1 or 2? The door is number 1.
We have 2 doors. The number 1 is the actual
That's the
entrance
entrance, and
to
then
the
2.
restaurant.
And then 2 so that the
And
servers.
2
can
is
go.
essentially if you're inside the restaurant, the easiest way to get to the outside seating area.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
Any other,
The best thing on the menu.
Jerk chicken, of course.
Changes every day.
It's all pretty good.
That would be a toss-up between the jerk chicken and the oxtail stew.
The oxtail?
I've
Yeah.
heard about this.
Yeah, those
Heard a lot
are
about this
2
too.
hot topics every day. They battle each other for the number 1 spot every day.
I like spicy though.
Oh, yeah.
I love spice.
any other questions from the board?
No.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any remonstrators for or against the petition?
Again, I'm here. I am not a remonstrator, but I do have questions and comments for this petition, if I might.
Yes, go ahead.
Again, Maria Rosmaroff, 11754 Sinclair Drive, Lawrence, 46235, City of Lawrence, Common Councilor, District 4. I support this petition and the Blue Lagoon. It has great food, and our family loves the restaurant and everything else about it. However, and I support this petition. I'm not here in opposition to it. However, I am concerned that if this seating represents the actual area, I don't know how it could possibly all fit. I think some of it is appropriate, and certainly the fencing and the flower boxes and all of that is lovely and will be wonderful. I go to that strip center often, and I know how wide that sidewalk is, and it's not very wide. And I'm confused as to how you can get 2 tops and 4 tops on that sidewalk and allow that to work properly. It just seems like there's a lot going on there and not enough room for all of it. That's just my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else for or against the petition? We'll hear from the City of Lawrence.
So it looks like Dan and Sri have left me, so I'll do it. So Graham and I worked quite a bit together to get this plan laid out and put the planter boxes there and the railing to try to ensure that the patrons would be safe. Councilor Rusamarov, if it would make you feel better, once he gets it set up, I'll go out and measure to make sure that we have that 3-foot aisle that's required by code. Graham has been very good at anything the city asks of him for his business, all the way from when he opened it years ago, from the first plan submittal through this whole process. Anything that I've said I've needed, he's right there doing it. And I'm confident that he'll continue to do that. But that will be we can ask, if you all want, that as a commitment that the rail be put on it, or that it be built according to the plan that is in the staff report. And then if we get out there and it's not, he's in violation of the commitments, and we can issue violations on that, if that's what the board wants to do.
Okay.
Sounds reasonable.
Well, then I have a follow-up question. So, I'm sorry, is this seating then like set in stone? if
No,
you approve it?
no,
Okay.
no. My only concern from the city, I don't care how many tables he puts out there, as long as we have a barrier and a 3-foot aisle.
Yeah, I
That's
agree.
the big concern from the city.
Okay. I'm in agreement.
Sure.
So yes, in addition, the dimensions of the sidewalk is fixed, but the actual dimensions of the tables that we put out there, there are lots of different options. So the one that I've displayed in this diagram reflects a 3-foot or 3 feet walkway. We could go with even smaller tables for the 4-foot or for the 4 top tables, and even smaller tables for the 2 top tables. Get a wider walkway in excess of the 3 feet that is displayed on this diagram. So that is something that I'm not really concerned about. We can achieve that pretty easily, no issues.
And like I said, I